Joining us on this special broadcast tonight is the former ambassador of United States of America to India, Frank Wisner. Mr. Wisner, thank you very much for speaking to Republic TV. Let me straight away begin by asking you, you call this as one of the biggest opportunity that both the major powers have. But some here in India are saying that perhaps unless you define who exactly is the natural ally here, things would not really go forward, and there is an irrational exuberance towards this entire visit of Prime Minister Modi to the United States of America. So why exactly are you calling this as a big opportunity for both the countries?
I believe that it is a major opportunity for both the United States and India. It is an opportunity to consolidate a relationship that has been building over the past several years. The Prime Minister will be shown every known respect in the United States, from high-level meetings in the White House, large-scale meetings with the Indian American community, joint session of the Congress, the first time a Prime Minister has been received twice since Winston Churchill addressed our two houses of the Congress. So this is a big moment. It's receiving a lot of attention. It comes about as an important moment because our respective interests coincide, notably in maintaining peace and stability in Asia and keeping ourselves prepared to deal with the rise of the power of China. But in addition to that, considerable opportunities lie in front of us in defense and defense cooperation, in expanding our economic cooperation and footprint, and political understandings and discussions between the two governments. We have to manage to keep our expectations measured, however, and accomplish what works in both political societies, but I still think it's a huge moment.
Mr. Wisner, you were one of the few diplomats from the United States of America back in 2011 who said that India should be developed as a counter to China. Today, the relationship that the United States of America shares with China is in complete doldrums. Do you believe that this is an opportunity to once again push India as the leader of Global South?
Let me correct my earlier statement. I hope I didn't say what you said. I believe it's in the interests of the United States and India to create balance in the Pacific Asian area in order to manage the relationship with China, not confront China nor contain China, but rather manage the outreach of Chinese power, indicating to China that nations like India and the United States will stand together when China overreaches. So I believe that's the core of our understanding and the course that we should try to pursue. And I believe that there is a common view between the two governments. Neither of us seek conflict with China, but we want to have the political basis of cooperation to manage the China relationship. As to America's relations with China, yes, indeed, they're fraught, but do take a look at the recent visit of Secretary of State Blinken, his brief but important signaling of his visit with Xi Jinping. We and China are trying to put some balance in our relationship, and we can even hope, if nothing else goes wrong, there will be a meeting between our heads of state at the end of the year in this country when the APEC summit occurs.
But Mr. Wisner, what is essentially happening is that China seems to be in a tizzy at this point in time with the Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States of America. And I'm quoting one of the top diplomats from China who says, and I'm quoting him, India's trade with the United States cannot replace its trade with China, nor can India replace China in the global supply chains. The more India exports to the United States, the more it needs to import from China. Now, that's the first big reaction really coming in from China. So there is an uneasiness at this point in time. How do you see the global world order essentially changing? And somewhere down the line, perhaps the United States of America also needs to take a bold decision, because things have been changing. It's no longer what it used to be in the past. So somewhere down the line, as far as foreign policy of US is concerned, that needs a considerable change.
Well, I hear your comment, the comment you quoted from your Chinese interlocutor. I do not see why the United States and India cannot cooperate without it being a zero-sum game and denying China commercial access to the Indian marketplace. We don't seek to replace China on the Indian marketplace and don't have the means to do so. We can, however, find ways to work together to strengthen our joint capabilities in trade and technology and make certain that we are able to stand eye to eye, toe to toe with China. But replacing China, this is not a zero-sum game.
Mr. Frank Wisner, let me also focus a little bit about how things have essentially been changing. And with Prime Minister Modi saying that as far as India's position vis-a-vis Russia-Ukraine war is concerned, India is not neutral, but essentially India is on the side of peace. Do you believe that somewhere down the line, the United States of America, which has also been criticized heavily for egging on Ukraine to continue in this war against Russia, do you believe that it is time, for the sake of global peace, that the United States of America needs to work very closely with India and perhaps broker some sort of a peace deal between both the warring nations?
Well, I think you and I have to part company respectfully over your assessment of the situation in Ukraine. It is not the United States that joined the fray in Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine. It invaded it without reason and is conducting a war of brutal aggression. Yes, it's important that the two parties achieve, Russia and Ukraine achieve some peace, but that also requires respect for the sovereignty of Ukraine. The withdrawal of Russian forces from territory in Ukraine that's been seized by Russian military forces. So can India and the United States work together? We can, of course. We should be looking for every opportunity to bring the parties to a table of peace. We and our NATO allies are forthright in that regard, but that does not mean that there is a concession Ukraine has to make. It didn't start this war, and the Russians did.
One final question that, Mr. Wisner, that I would like to take with you with regards to how do you essentially see the alliance between India and the United States of America? You've worked with previous dispensation in India. You've been here. What do you think has essentially changed? Or would you say that, perhaps it's a continuity? There is a continuity, but do you feel that there is something that has remarkably changed, and who's really responsible for it?
I do believe there has been a profound change in the relationship. It has been one that is developed gradually, in which trust between the two governments is increased now during the Modi years and in the previous years prior to the assumption of the Prime Minister's office by Prime Minister Modi. I believe that the actions and behavior of China have forced the pace of a relationship that is based on common values, on common interests, on common economic and political interests, and on common social and personal ties. We are, after all, a nation with an enormous population of Americans of Indian origin. So all of these bedrock principles guide us forward. But the introduction of Chinese power and its rise is the proximate cause of the acceleration in the relationship.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Wisner, for speaking to Republic TV and also putting this into perspective.
It's an honor to be with you, and good wishes.